What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to Bobby's Big Board once again. In today's video, we're looking at a 10-team 4-round rookie draft that I did over this past weekend in one of my main Dynasty leagues. Yeah, it was a very interesting draft. Some people, in terms of rookies, fell. Some rookies were kind of reaches, in my opinion. So I was going to go over it real quick and just kind of give insights into all the teams, how I thought they did, break down my picks as well. I think it'd be a pretty interesting video all in all. So first up, we have 2-8 here. Before I say anything more, this is a 10-team PPR league. It's half PPR for running backs, PPR for wide receivers, 1.5 for tight ends. So tight ends are a little more valuable in this league. Deep league as well. I think we have 36 roster spots and we start 10. So first up, we got 2-8 here. Yeah, he had an unfortunate season. He had a pretty strong roster with the double stacked with Tua and Tyreek and Dak and CD. But unfortunately, Tua and Dak both went down, and that kind of tore his whole season apart. He really didn't have anybody to start in their place, really. Now he has Justin Fields. I traded him, Justin Fields, at midseason to see if he could stabilize, but unfortunately he could not, and he ended up with the worst record in the league. So with him, he was pretty much locked in on taking Ashton Genty, but he ended up moving it for the 103, the 203, and the 206. So I didn't really love that trade for him. He trades it to Deke, who had a lot of picks already anyways. So Deke here, he goes ahead and takes Ashton Genty. He had a big time hole at the running back 2 spot. He had Bijan and basically nobody else there, so he absolutely needed a running back. I thought he would pick maybe Omarion Hampton or Travion at the 3 spot, but he moves up to 1 and gets the best running back in the class. He also picked it the 102. He actually traded for the 102 for, I want to say, the 105 and the 204. I mean, he fleeced 2 players in this draft. It was kind of crazy. But he gets back-to-back 101 and 102, which became Ashton Genty and Ted McMillan. He needed a wide receiver as well. His team kind of had a few holes, really was hurting for depth in all honesty. So he gets 2 of the best players in the entire draft. He was a little scared of taking Travis Hunter here, who is my wide receiver 1, just due to he wanted more of a sure thing in Ted McMillan, which makes total sense. So Deuce, he moves back from the 101. He goes to the 103 and takes my running back to Travion Henderson. I feel like since, he's a watcher of the channel, he kind of got sold on my love for Travion Henderson over Hampton. We also share the same belief that Hampton's going to be not as productive as Travion early on in the year. Maybe Omarion takes on more volume as expected, after midseason or so. So he could theoretically be the RB2 in this class, but I like Henderson's upside more. So he ends up taking Henderson at the 103. Love that. He's my 3rd overall player in the draft, so I do like that. And then for me, I traded my 104. I had multiple first-round picks in this draft. I ended up trading them for a bunch of actual players that I liked more. The 104, I believe I traded for Trevor Lawrence and CMC at one point, so I like that a lot. So actually, weirdly enough, at the 104, 2-8 is picking again. So he really didn't need a quarterback here. He had Dak, he had Tua, he had Justin Fields. But there was some bad blood between him and Ian. Ian was desperately in need of a quarterback. His QB2 right now is Geno Smith. He does have Josh Allen, but he doesn't have a QB3 that's reliable right now. So they've been having some bad trade talks here recently. So Ian moves back to the 105, expecting Cam Ward to fall there. And of course, 2-8 says, nah, bro, this is my quarterback. Didn't really need it. he did that in spite. We definitely have some tensions rising in this league. So Cam Ward falls at the 104, and Ian is in a terrible predicament right now. He takes Omarion Hampton, which I think is great value for him, but he was obviously hunting for the quarterback. So then we have the third first-round pick for 2-8 at the 106. He was wanting to start the rebuild early, so he did trade off some of his assets to get more first-round picks. He ends up with my tight end one, Tyler Warren. I think he had an excellent first round outside of the Cam Ward pick. That was a little interesting, but nonetheless, Tyler Warren here is a great pick here. Yeah, he goes to Indianapolis, but I think he's still going to be very productive, very versatile in the Shane Steichen offense. And he traded away David Njoku, so he needed a solidified tight end one, and I think Tyler Warren will do him a service next year. So then we have Cornelius One, who's been pretty quiet in terms of trades this past season. He's just been quietly being one of the better teams in the league, despite his roster not having the most top-end talent. I think his roster's pretty old as well, and he doesn't really have a dominant QB1 either. But regardless, he did need a running back. I think his best running backs were Kamara and Chubb last year, basically, down the stretch. I think, he had Kamara, Brian Robinson, Jordan Mason, and then he has JT as well. Still, he gets my sixth best player in Quinshon Judkins. I love this pick for him. I think that was the best overall player for him to grab. I mean, you could see Jackson Dart here if you wanted to throw a dart at the draft board, basically. But, yeah, I like the Judkins pick for him better. All in all, that's a good pick. So then it's my first pick at the 108. I have a very strong team, guys. I got Caleb Williams and Drake May. I've got Trevor Lawrence as well, Anthony Richardson if he hits. And then my running backs weren't the greatest. You know, I have CMC, Tony Pollard, and ETN and Chuba Hubbard. So I kind of need a dominant RB1. If Christian McCaffrey does play up to his standards, then sure, but I'm kind of worried about the injury. And then my wide receivers are great with BTJ, Justin Jefferson, CD Lamb, DJ Moore. I like, my team is pretty stacked, guys, and I have a good bit of draft capital in this draft as well. So I really thought this was a great time. I thought he fell long enough, and I picked Travis Hunter at the 108 here just because I think I can risk it. I think my team's good enough right now to actually draft the best player on my board. He's my second overall player in the draft. And I mean, just throw a dart at the draft board basically and grab him. And if he hits, yeah, I have both BTJ and Travis Hunter, but at worst I can flip one of them for an equally as good asset and then just have the better one of the two Jaguars. So love that pick for me. I thought that was great value. And then we have Jack, who has by far the oldest team in this league. He had Rodgers, Stafford, and Jordan Love last year as his quarterbacks, as Travis Kelce, Mike Evans. I mean, his team is ancient, guys. So he absolutely needed a quarterback because once Stafford retires as early as next season, he's going to be hurting for a QB2. He goes ahead and grabs Jackson Dart here at the 109. I think that's great value for him. I think this is a solid move for him. It doesn't give him any immediate value, but I think if, like I said, if Jackson Dart hits and puts it all together in 2026 after Russell Wilson's leaves, man, he can be a solid quarterback at the next level. And then we have our reigning champ, Haggard here. He was pretty much carried by his QB play. I mean, he had Brock Bowers as well, but the center pieces of his team were Baker Mayfield and Lamar Jackson last year, two quarterbacks that absolutely balled out last year. But if you look through his team, guys, I mean, his running backs are Kyron and Devon Achane. That's solid, but outside of Charbonnet, he has no depth. Maybe Joe Mixon as well. So he's got a few options at running back, but after a couple years, it's not going to be looking too good. And then with his wide receivers, I mean, he's got Thielen, Kupp, Kirk, Debo, Jacoby, A.J. Brown. His wide receiver core was hurting, and then he's got Brock Bowers. But I mean, his team got hot when they needed to get hot in the fantasy playoffs last year, and he just stormed through the playoffs and won it. So he takes Emeka Egbuka here. I think that's great value here as well, just because he has some older players, but he doesn't have to start Egbuka right away. I think his team's strong enough right now to where he didn't have to start Egbuka right away. So the 110, that's great value. I think Egbuka can be a very solid player in the 2026 season. Then I pick back-to-back in the early second rounds. So I get Caleb Johnson at the 201 and RJ Harvey at the 202. Like I said, I figured both of these running backs are still going to be there, as I thought Dart was going to go either to Haggard or Jack there, just because they're both Ole Miss fans. I honestly thought he would take Trey Harris over Egbuka. So I figured my running backs were going to be pretty safe here. And like I said, my behind CMC, I have like a plethora of kind of mid RB2s and Chuba Hubbard, Travis Etienne, Tony Pollard. And I really wanted to try and separate myself in terms of my running back room and try to get a pretty high-end asset. So I picked a mixture of Caleb Johnson, who is a safe power back that's in a great Arthur Smith system that I know is going to get a lot of carries next year. And then I paired that up with RJ Harvey, who has the upside to be a RB1 in fantasy. So I kind of get the best of both worlds here. Then in one of the picks that Deuce got for his 101, he picks Cam Scatabo at the 203. Thought it was a little early for Scatabo, but all in all, he can definitely be the workhorse back for the Giants as early as next season. And, I wouldn't let Tyrone Tracy scare anybody away from drafting Scatabo. He had an insane year last year. Love the contact balance. Love the dog mentality that he has. So, good pick here. There was other players on the board like Jack Bash that he ends up getting later on. Maybe if you believe in Matthew Golden, you could have went Golden here. I just think Scatabo went probably 2 or 3 picks too early, but he loves Scatabo. He's a believer in Scatabo, so I don't mind the pick all in all. So then Ian at the 204, he really needs a little bit of everything. His team's really hurting all around. So he gets Matthew Golden here, a player that I'm telling people to avoid in the first round. But at the 204, he's a first-round pick receiver. He's going to be probably playing the X position. Maybe the Packers finally start targeting one receiver relatively consistently. But over the past 2 seasons, they have not. They've spread the ball around a criminal amount. Like, they've spread it around so much. So I'm staying away from Golden. But if I'm picking at the 204, I don't think I can turn down the value of a first-round pick receiver. Then next up, we have SMS, which is his first pick of the draft. He needed a quarterback, but he ended up trading for Justin Herbert just a few weeks before this draft. His running backs are pretty solid, pretty young. Bucky Irving, Tyrone Tracy is meh to me, but he's got Aaron Jones as well. So, outside of Bucky Irving, he kind of, he's got Kenneth Walker and Breece Hall as well. I didn't see that. So his running back room's pretty well taken care of. He just needed some depth at receiver because, he doesn't really have much outside of Nico Collins and Devonta Smith and Garrett Wilson. He's got a solid 3 here, but outside of that, he's lacking pretty hard. The Leggett situation just didn't really pan out for him. And he takes a kind of similar player in terms of route tree finesse and kind of play style overall to Leggett and Trey Harris. Trey Harris is kind of like this big jump ball receiver, not nearly as athletic as Leggett, but I didn't really like this pick. I would have much rather had Jack Bash over this pick, or Luther Burden, or even Higgins. I'm not really big on Higgins either, but I would have had all 3 of those receivers go over Trey Harris. Draft capital doesn't mean everything for fantasy, guys. There's going to be plenty of third-round receivers that are going to be outperforming second-round receivers. Same thing with running backs. With Trey Harris, I think he's a linear vertical threat that's not super fast, not good after the catch. He's decent after the catch, but nothing special, and he runs a linear route tree. Maybe that's due to Ole Miss not being a pro-style offense. I don't know. But I'm not in love with Trey Harris because they run the ball a ton and they already have Ladd McConkey. So he's not even the wide receiver one in a run-heavy offense. So I just didn't really understand this pick. But all in all, it's fine, I guess. Then 2-8 goes ahead and grabs Jack Besh here. Love this pick. He was my 12th overall player, all in all. I just had no interest in picking a wide receiver at the 201 or the 202, or I would have absolutely gotten him. I needed running back. So he gets Jack Besh here at the 206. I think that's superb value. I think he's the wide receiver one for the Raiders next year, and he's got all the talent in the world, and he has the right mindset as well. If you watch any interviews with Jack Besh, he's going to make you believe he's going to be a top 12 finish in fantasy next year at wide receiver. So then next up, we get Ian again, who's going Luther Burden at the 207. I know I was getting a lot of hate having Luther Burden as, going at the 212 in my rankings, but guys, I'm seeing him land in the late second round a lot. I mean, this draft class is a lot more stacked than people think. Look, Luther Burden pre-draft was my wide receiver too. I'm not saying he doesn't have talent. He's insane. He's an insane yak guy. I mean, I just have a couple concerns, right, with the off the field stuff and, getting stupid penalties, getting mad at DBs and stuff. That's going to need to be cleaned up at the next level because these DBs in the NFL are really annoying. So, and then again, the crowded landing spot as well. I don't think he's going to get great production until after DJ Moore probably leaves in 2026, 2027. We'll have to see there. But all in all, I would have rathered somebody that had more initial production like a Noel or a Higgins or an A.O. Manor or something like that. But I think all in all, Burden is a great pick here at the 207. He's just going to need to be patient with the player. Then next up, we have Machu, which I believe is his first pick. Yeah, it is. So I want to say he traded his pick away for Saquon Barkley. He traded the 106 for Saquon Barkley, and I don't remember the trade all in all, but he traded, I want to say Saquon Barkley for that pick. I could be wrong though. Anyways, he picks his first pick here. It's Jaden Higgins at the 208. If you watch any other fantasy creator, they're going to tell you this is a great pick. In my opinion, I'm going off based off what I saw on film. Not really in love with it, guys. I'm not gonna slide him. I mean, Higgins was just not really impressive to me on film, and he goes to a very crowded receiver room now. I think Noel was the better Iowa State receiver. Yeah, he didn't get better draft capital, but Higgins, I think, slots in as the X receiver in that offense. Noel's the slot. I prefer slot receivers to X receivers in fantasy a lot just because they get more touches usually. And, it's very easy in the NFL for X receivers just to be the sacrificial X where you're just making the safety go with you to take the safety out of the play. So don't love the pick, really. He's kind of a tight end lover. His startup strategy was to draft all the good tight ends. And with Colston Loveland there, I thought almost guaranteed he was going to go with Colston Loveland, but he doesn't. So he goes Higgins here, whatever. So at the 209, you have Colston Loveland. It's absolutely insane how far he fell. I was almost worried, like I was going to trade up in the second round to like the 301 or 302. I knew the 301 was on the block, but maybe trade up to if Colston Loveland fell. But he falls all the way at the 209. That's criminal value. I think that's a great pick for not Jack Besh, but for Jack, because his only other tight end right now that's worth starting is Travis Kelce. So that's perfect, a perfect timeline for him because one, Travis Kelce, you're going to get 1 year of presumably good production at the tight end position. Colston Loveland is going to be in a crowded offense this year, but I think they get rid of Cole Kmet next year, and then Loveland will kind of pour it on in terms of their production in 2026. So that's a great timeline for your tight end position for sure. And then I want to say, is this his fourth pick? No, this is his third pick in the second round. He goes Alec Ayomanor, 2-8 does. He's really doing the rebuild pretty good all in all. I mean, he's got some really good players in the second round. He landed my RB2 and my tight end 1 and my QB1 in the first round. I thought he made some pretty good moves. I thought he could have gotten a little bit more out of the 101, but all in all, I mean, he's making some killer picks here. A.O. Manor was super talented in my opinion coming out. Obviously, I have Pat Bryant rated over him just a little bit just because A.O. Manor's going to the worst offense. He's going to have a questionable quarterback. We don't know what Cam Ward's going to do, but he gets the stack, which is cool. So I do believe A.O. Manor's going to play X, but I think he's versatile enough to play at anywhere on the field. Super talented, has some very impressive counting stats at Stanford as well, considering they're a run-heavy offense. So love this pick at the 210. I think that's right about where I would expect A.O. Manor to go if, you know, you have a bunch of film junkies in the room drafting. Then he backs it up right after that with Jalen Knoll at the 301. Another great pick by Deuce. Like I said, I think he's doing the rebuild really good right now. I think his quarterback situation is going to be a little rough next year, especially if Cam Ward doesn't work out all the way. But Knoll's another great piece. I think he's super talented as well. So, yeah, all in all, great pick there. Then next up, I was hoping and praying. You see, I pick at the 304. I was hoping and praying that my number one sleeper would be falling to me at the 304. But unfortunately, SMS is a Patriots fan, and he, I guess, did a little bit of scouting on Kyle Williams. And if anybody does any scouting on Kyle Williams, you'll know that this kid is super talented. And outside of Stephon Diggs, I think this wide receiver room's wide open. So I think that's killer value for Kyle Williams. Then at the 303, I did have this pick originally, and Deke approached me with a 2027 second for the 303. I am a Chiefs fan. I did see Jalen Royals there on the clock, but I really couldn't turn that down. I love the 2027 class. I basically get a whole round's worth of value for free, and he gets Jalen Royals. I think that's a fair trade all in all. But in terms of the pick, I think Royals is going to be a very productive slot receiver, but he can play X. He can replace Juju Smith-Schuster as the X if they want. It's a little crowded in terms of the wide receiver room with Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy, Rashee Rice once he comes off of suspension and when he's fully healthy from that ACL. Then you have like Juju Smith-Schuster. All those guys are going to be kind of, you know, fighting for targets, but all in all, I think he's a very talented player. He's my wide receiver 3 pre-draft, so I think all the talent in the world is there with Royals, and he's been doing really good at rookie minicamp. So then I pick it to 304. Guys, I know I've been saying it all off season. I've got probably 8 shares of this guy. Pat Bryant is consistently falling to me in the 3rd and 4th rounds. He's a 3rd round pick receiver, everybody, going to a good offense where the Broncos really didn't have a great receiving core last year. I think they were ranked towards the bottom in terms of efficiency metrics, and they just weren't really, you know, producing that well individually, right? Marvin Mims came on strong down the stretch, but outside of Cortland Sutton, they really weren't doing all that much at the receiver position. So I think Pat Bryant, he brings kind of a rare blend of size, long speed, yak ability, jump ball ability. He's got all these really cool intangible tools, and he played at a terrible Illinois team. I mean that probably hurt him more than anything. I think he's a diamond in the rough, and that's why I drafted him. Then SMS, he picks another kind of, you know, I don't know if the word's risky or not, but Bashal Tootin goes here at the 305. I've seen him go in the 2nd round of a lot of rookie drafts. I kind of am avoiding him just because of the fumbling concerns in college. I think that's going to be a big deal for him. And it's a crowded backfield already with not Najee Harris, but ETN and Tank Bigsby. Yeah, I don't know. You know, I obviously think Liam Cohen drafted this guy for a reason. And normally when a coach gets into a team in his first draft, he's trying to make an impression with that first draft to make himself look better to the GM and to the owners. That's just natural, right? They want to knock the draft out of the park, and they want to make their draft picks look as good as possible. So I do think Tootin will be running a decent amount next year, but you know, if he gets space, he's going to take it to the house. He's got crazy speed, but not the best vision, not the best agility either, and he has some ball security issues, so I kind of am avoiding him all in all. But in the mid-third round, I mean, you can't pass up on the upside. Then Matthew picks up next. He gets Devin Neal. I thought there were a few better picks all in all. I thought Jordan James would be pretty solid here. I think Dylan Sampson would be better here. Jarquez Hunter. But Devin Neal, you know, he was my RB10 pre-draft. Love the patience behind the line. You know, I think he's a solid pass catcher. But, you know, I think he could replace Alvin Kamara next year if they end up moving off of him. But he is kind of locked in for a couple of years on a contract. So I think he's probably their change of pace guy or relief back. Or, you know, I think the only reason Devin Neal will be fantasy relevant next year is if Kamara goes down. But outside of that, I don't know. So next up, I'll be honest, guys, this is probably the weakest pick of the entire draft. Cornelius picks Tez Johnson at the 307. I'll be the first to say it. I was super high on Tez Johnson. He was in the top 5 of my wide receivers pre-draft just because he's got elite yak ability. I mean, he can do some of the craziest agility moves I've ever seen on film. Super fast slot guy. Problem is, one, he's 156 pounds, and that's extremely undersized. He would be one of, if not the lightest wide receiver in the NFL ever. So there's that. Then with Tez, he also goes to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which already had a crowded wide receiver room. They drafted Igbuka. I think Tez Johnson's mainly going, and I want to say he went in the 7th round as well. He's probably going to be a special teamer guy, like a punt kick return guy at best, and that's basically going to be it, even if he even makes the team. I love the talent, though. I wish he would have went to a better landing spot. I don't think Tez Johnson should be drafted in any rookie drafts right now. Then I pick at the 308. I mean, my quarterbacks are pretty solid. Caleb Williams, Drake May, Trevor Lawrence, Anthony Richardson. But at the 308, I have this really crazy athletic rushing quarterback staring me in the face that had decent draft capital. He was a 3rd rounder. Now, I'm not saying he won't end up exactly like Malik Willis, like a similar type of situation. But I think Milroe, if he develops his passing and actually gets a chance to start next year in 2026, I mean, he can be a not an RB1, but a QB1 level quarterback because, I mean, he's the fastest quarterback I've ever seen on film. That includes Richardson, Lamar Jackson, all those guys. He's the fastest guy I've ever seen on film in terms of just vertical speed. So I love the upside here. I'm going to stash him on my taxi squad at least this year and next year. See how he does in the preseason. And, you know, I've heard a bunch of positive stuff coming out of the Seahawks locker room, just saying how pumped he is and how excited he is. And he's doing all the right things as of right now. And then Jack, you know, I don't really think he's missed a single pick in this draft, and it continues here. He picks Torrey Horton here. I think he's a absolutely great vertical X receiver when he needs to be. He did play some competition since he played at Colorado State, but love the yak ability, great speed. You can even put him in the slot if you want to. He had a knee injury, a pretty gruesome one too, I might add, but he ran very well at the combine, did very well at the combine all in all. So great pick for him. Seattle's wide receiver room is very thin. So yeah, I love this pick for Jack. And then Haggard, the champ's up next. He's a Saints fan as well. He gets Tyler Shuck. I think he's a very low upside quarterback, but at the 310, we're talking about a starting quarterback at the NFL level. I mean, even if he's average, this is a great pick for him. I don't really think he'd ever start him just because he's got Lamar, Baker, and JJ. But, if he wants to trade him halfway through the season or something to somebody that needs a quarterback like Ian, or like somebody has a quarterback injury like Deuce, he's one quarterback injury away from, having some tough decisions to make in terms of who he's starting between Fields, Ward, and Dak, and who knows, Dak and Tua could both underperform. So we'll see. So he definitely can trade Tyler Shuck away mid-season. That would be pretty solid. Then, the good picks keep coming for 2 Deuce 8. He picks Harold Fannin Jr. in the 4th round. That's absolute criminal value for him. He's my tight end 3 in rookie drafts right now. He's got great yak ability, great production. Goes to a pretty solid landing spot as well. The Browns have historically been very good at having pretty high-end tight ends in terms of production. So I don't think that stops with Harold Fannin. I think the talent's amazing, insane even. He's just going to have to beat out Njoku for the starting job. And with Njoku's injury history, he might start this year a few games, more games than you might be willing to expect. So then Ian, another weird pick for me, Shedeur Sanders. If there's a rookie draft where you're taking Shedeur Sanders over Dillon Gabriel, you're not doing things correctly. Dillon Gabriel was picked 2 rounds before Shedeur Sanders by the same team. I'm not going to say whoever's more talented is going to get the starting job, because there are politics in the NFL, guys. And I'm telling you, that GM and that coach that drafted Dillon Gabriel 2 rounds before Shedeur are not going to have a easy time starting Shedeur over Gabriel, even if he is more talented than Gabriel, because that makes them look stupid. If their 3rd round pick is basically sitting on the bench doing nothing over a guy that they drafted in the 5th round, that's not going to make any sense. I do think Shedeur probably starts a couple games this year. I think Gabriel's going to get in the mix as well, but like I said, I don't love Shedeur as his talent, and I think at the 4th round even, I think it's not worth it. So we didn't really talk about Mike Baggs at all here. He traded away a good bit of his picks just because he inherited a orphan that had some very questionable players on it. Shout out to Mike Baggs for taking this over, because ever since he's got the team, he has been making moves. He traded for Ladd McConkey. He's traded for multiple players, I believe. He traded for Kyler Murray, Najee Harris, a bunch of players. He's really been trying to rebuild this team to where he can contend. And at the 403, you really don't have much value here. So he picks basically the best drafted player in Ty Felton. Hate the landing spot for him, but the talent's pretty solid. I think he might start at the slot, maybe a special teams guy as well, at least for now. With Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison there and TJ Hawkinson, I don't think he produces very much early on, but maybe if they move on from Addison after a while, he can come in and produce a little bit. Then it's my last pick in this rookie draft, and I did need a tight end. I've got a mixture of like Kyle Pitts, Evan Ingram, and Brenton Strange, which I think is a solid tight end room. But Oronde Gadsden, one of my favorite tight end prospects this year, he's my tight end 5, I believe, goes to me at the 4th round. I love that. So I grabbed him. I will say I didn't see that Terrence Ferguson was on the board here. I would have taken him over Gadsden, but I will hope and pray that I'm getting him on the waivers in, tonight at midnight. Hopefully I can get him. So overall, I think the Chargers have nobody at tight end outside of Will Dissly, who I don't find particularly impressive. And, it's a run-heavy offense, but I love the hands for Gadsden. I think he's a big red zone threat at the next level. Then SMS, takes a 2nd-round tight end that I'm not really in love with. I think he's bad, Noah Fant, and has a significant injury history as well. So not really big on this pick, but he's a 2nd-round tight end going in the 4th round, so solid value there. Then Matthew goes back-to-back running backs, right? So he gets Dylan Sampson here, who, in all honesty, I think you should swap both of these picks, have Dylan Sampson in the third and Neal in the fourth. But Sampson, he's probably going to be a change of pace guy for the Browns. I don't think he's hurting any Judkins touches at all, so not really scary for me. And he's just, all in all, not somebody that I was super impressed with on film. And then another pretty weak pick for Cornelius here at the 407. I really didn't like the Mason Taylor pick all in all. He's my worst graded player in all of the 200 plus players that I drafted or scouted last year. He's still a second round pick, tight end in a team that has no tight ends. So the upside's definitely there. He'll at least get playing time. So good. Restrepo at the 408 for Jack. I thought Restrepo would definitely go undrafted. If you're drafting undrafted free agents in real life in your rookie drafts, that's just not a good move all in all. I do think Restrepo will make the final 53-man roster just because Cam Ward's going to make that happen, and he loves Restrepo as a target. So I think Restrepo is got the work ethic and mindset to be in the NFL a long time. Whether or not he's productive or not as a slot receiver, that remains to be seen. Then at the 409, Deke gets pretty solid value here in Jarquez Hunter. He's got a weird path to production, you know, in terms of opportunity. He's behind Kyron and he's behind Blake Corum, who they spent significant draft capital on last year. I think Kyron does not get a second contract with the Rams. I think he'll go to free agency. So after that, maybe Jarquez gets in there. I love the burst, though. I thought he was an explosive back with some good physicality. So that's overall a decent pick. And then the last pick in the draft was Shamir DK to Haggard, the reigning champion. I think he's more of a special teams guy, but he's definitely got the speed to separate vertically. So, you know, all in all, we'll see how that guy pans out. But that's basically it, guys. This is the 4-round rookie draft. How do you think I did all in all? Do you think there's anybody in this list that absolutely knocked it out of the park? I think Deuce did really good. I think I did very good, trying not to be biased. I think Jack did pretty good with his picks as well. But all in all, yeah, let me know in the comments who you thought fell too far or who reached on a player too high up. But yeah, guys, I just reached 100 subs just a couple days ago. The growth on this channel has been absolutely insane. So thank you for everybody that's watched my videos over the past few days. Love the support from you guys. And as always, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
Hey.